Okay, so I had a random idea right now with regards to being able to do dynamic static generation with Go. I have kind of built a similar framework or CLI before, and the major problem with that was that it would require a specific set of templates for it to work. So if we go look at it, the whole point of Statico was to be able to work with this specific definition. So you tell it what the site is supposed to have, so this becomes your metadata. Second, you'd have your templates defined, so basically you would define the template names over here, and you would define these as HTML files or Go language templates in the templates directory, or views directory, whatever you want to put it into. The same thing would be defined in the part definition. So my content, basically markdown related files, would be in the contents folder. The templates would be in the templates folder. The distribution directory would be the out, and the public folder would be public, which would basically get copied as it is. So assets, logos, favicons, what else, anything else that you would directly need on the root of your distribution directory would basically be in the public folder. As for the index folder, as soon as you pass in any kind of parameter over here, any folder that goes into this would be sent to this template. So this template would decide, or this template would from the CLI always get all the files of this particular folder, and then it would list it out there, and then the port. Now all of this is cool, but this is like logged into place. You cannot really bring in new behavior without actually changing the CLI itself. Now since I was the only person using it, makes no difference. I could release a new version and make the changes as requested, but still this was work even for me, because I'd have to move out of the website that I was working on, go back to the source of Statico, fix it over there, come back, use the new version, make sure that the CLI of that particular version is being installed on whatever it's building on. So if it's building on Vercel, I have to make sure that it gets the latest version for Statico from the GitHub releases, and then older websites have to keep using the older version, so on and so forth. So this became a little bit tedious, I would say, and hence this project is now archived. But I still wanted to do something like this instead of using something like Astro, which I am doing right now on my website, uh, just so that I can have a little bit of interaction, but not full-fledged JavaScript, while Astro maintains that pretty well. Like, you have zero to no JavaScript on my website right now. Actually, there's zero JavaScript on my website. So while that works, any kind of behavior that I need to define has to be going through Astro. And again, we all know JavaScript environment does break stuff quite often because they try to move fast, and that's all okay. Not something that we need to discuss, at least not right now. The thing is, I would like it to be from a very specific stable CLI instead of having to work through major optimizations, additions for something so simple. So this is where whatever I'm doing comes into picture. We do have a little bit of interactivity with Alpine.js, though this is totally option. This is something I could like simply remove from the head file and build it again, and this should stop working basically. So this will sorry, what, okay, build it again. Yeah, so this no longer works. So you have just a bunch of text and a button that no longer works. But if you do need the interactivity, I could just re-enable it and pass that through, and we have our interactivity back. Now the thing about this, or this is not something special. You could just like shove in Alpine into anything and that should continue working for you. As for what we are trying to do is a single file system, but since I need Go, I am not really into writing my own DSL right now for this. Maybe someday, but right now this is a very simple setup. You have a file for the writer, which is basically your index.go over here. So the point of this file is basically to define what's gonna get sent to index.html, and index.html over here just expects .data right now, but this can basically change to whatever you wish it to. So I can change this to, let's say, uh, state, and I could just go in to the index.html and change this to state, and the current uh, start state is false for open. I'm just gonna change it to true, build the entire website, and if you see the dist point, which is basically your built out static index, you have the head injected over here, and you have this JSON coming in, which is basically open true, which comes from our index.go. And if I change it to false, that changes to false, so on and so forth. The whole point is that, or the point of the demo is that you get to decide what the initial state of your static file is, and if you wish to add an interactivity based on some form of data, you can do so, though this is totally optional. This is just something I was testing, but the main point was to get index.go to talk to index.html, which is kind of done. So just to go through it, the point of index.go over here is basically to figure out what is supposed to be sent to the template, and this could be any logic. Now, the biggest problem with Statico, as I said, was the tight coupling with the template names, and it was very hard for me to define any new relation or any new programmatic behavior for it, even though most of the programmatic behavior was required just during compilation. And rewriting the CLI again and again makes no sense for something like that. So this is trying to be a little more dynamic on the side. So if I had something like a contents folder over here, I don't have to tightly give it to a configuration. I could basically just define it over here that index.go is supposed to talk to, let's say, index.html, and this HTML gets in all of the posts, and basically I loop through the posts in Alpine, and I just shove it over here. So I could just have a template x4 and go through the posts. So I would be sending through posts as a particular variable over here in the JSON. So let's say if it was coming as posts, so my data would get declared over here, the post field. So let post of post, or is it something else? Just one sec. It's posted posts. Okay. And then I could basically define the structure for that. So right now we don't really have posts, so this is not gonna work, but I could have the handling being taken care of. What's wrong with Sublime today? Anyway, so the handling would be taken care by Alpine instead of it being taken care by Go, even though I could still go ahead and do this to be properly static by changing this to run with the golang loop instead of using Alpine's loop, but whatever, that is basically dependent on what I want to do. Second thing is, if you can do something like this where your data is still coming from the back, you can actually add in, or you can create a low.js kind of website with basically anything. I'm using Alpine because it's built for this kind of stuff, but you could do this with jQuery, you could do this with literally anything. You could add in Vue over here and you can use that, but point still being to be able to get this to connect itself to this, which is kind of working right now. though I'm not really sure how much because I've not really tested it extensively. um, the next part of this or the next video would probably be as to how we are doing this, but this is probably going to be open source by then, so you can read the code. But we'll just be going through how the file actually connects these two together. Hopefully that makes sense, and that's about it for this video.